Organization Pavilion. We're delighted that you're here. My name is Angie Fife, and I'm the Executive Director of the ICLE USA office. So very happy to be highlighting a number of US leaders today and the work that they're doing internationally and the importance of international collaboration. I want to mention that today the theme for COP is health, relief, recovery, and peace. So please take care of yourself today. Take care of each other. Let's think some peaceful thoughts. We know there's a lot of conflict in the world, so we can do our part to take care of some of those pains that folks are feeling. So we're going to start with a kind of a lightning round of questions. We have two speakers who are on their way. But in the interest of time, we want to make sure that others who need to take off for other events will be able to fully participate today. So I'm going to ask Commissioner Shea to give us a start. Commissioner Bridget Shea is the county commissioner in Travis County, Texas, where Austin is located. Commissioner Shea is also the board chair for the ICLE USA organization. Bridget has been a fierce advocate for many issues related to sustainability, community, climate, et cetera, for years and years. And so she's got a lot of great experience to share. She is also involved in a project that is funded by the U.S. State Department called Cities Forward. This is a bilateral event that's a program that's allowing U.S. cities and Latin American and Caribbean cities to exchange, learn from one another and whatnot. Welcome, Mayor Bala. Glad to have you here. Welcome. So we'll get started with Commissioner Shea. And Commissioner, tell us a bit about your work in Cities Forward and what do you think of when you think about international collaboration?
We I think some of us participated in the State Department's Cities of the Americas gathering in Denver in April, which kicked off the Cities Forward process. And that by itself was illuminating because we met with the mayors of Latin American cities and Central American cities. And some of the things that they're doing are really remarkable and I think could be valuable for us to learn, at least in Texas, maybe other parts of the US as well. And I'll just give one quick example. The mayor of Bogota, Claudia Lopez, I think, and I believe she's still here. They have 600,000 immigrants from Venezuela that are coming into Bogota, Colombia. That's just a huge crush of new people. And rather than treat them poorly and demagogue about, immigrants, they have embraced them. And part of it is economic. They are an aging country and they acknowledge that they need more young people to be working and to be generating revenue for their retirement, their pension, their social security funds. But they've embraced these immigrants. They've given them work permits, which gives them the legal right to work, to live there, to put their children in school, to access healthcare. So they're not forcing the immigrants into a black market economy. They are embracing them. And in turn, people are working and are generating new investment, new revenue into their pension fund. And I just thought that was a brilliant approach. And that's just one example of one of the practices that I learned a lot from the State Department process. We've just begun the meetings and the dialogues with essentially our sister city, our partner city in Mexico, Mérida. And I've only learned a little bit about some of the issues that we share, but they are similarly struggling with water supply. We're in Central Texas, and it is getting hotter and hotter and drier and drier. And these two things, I think, will combine to really cause very serious problems for us in the future. So Mérida is struggling with some of these issues in Mexico, and we hope to learn from each other and share best practices.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Welcome to Mayor Bala, Mayor of Hoboken, New Jersey. We're really happy to have you here. Today, Mayor, the COP themes are health, relief, recovery, and peace. So we're sending you a message of peace this morning, and hope that
Thank you.
getting through the line wasn't too stressful. So we teed up the conversation today about international collaboration with the Cities Forward project. Hoboken is also one of the participants in the project, and we'd love to hear more about why international collaboration is important to you.
Sure. Thank you, Angie, and thank you to ICLEI for having us. It's great to see my colleague, Mayor Patterson Howard here from Mount Vernon, not too far away. I think it's, it's very innovative. Perhaps it should have been done before, but the Cities Forward partnership really brings together different communities within the Western Hemisphere to engage and trade in best practices, and to see how we can both provide and receive support from one another to face common challenges. One example, which is kind of outside the scope of this program itself, but I think is very powerful from a Hoboken experience, was after Superstorm Sandy, but later after Hurricane Maria and Hurricane Irma in Puerto Rico. We partnered with Villalba, a city in Puerto Rico, to really impart lessons, best practices that we learned from Superstorm Sandy, where there was a mayor's exchange. We went to Villalba. We saw the infrastructure there. We saw the devastation from Hurricane Maria, Hurricane Irma, the impacts it has not just on the infrastructure, not just on the community, but really the psychology, the psychological impacts it has on a mayor and on a community are all devastating. All things that we also experienced, but the challenge that Villalba had in Puerto Rico was that even though they had great assets, they had the ability to create a microgrid that could actually be useful to a third of the country. They didn't know how to utilize that microgrid, that tremendous asset, because they just didn't know how to navigate the federal system in the US. So when the mayor of Villalba came up to Hoboken, we spent the whole day with him and his team. There was the Department of Energy was critical in getting up this microgrid. So we were able to leverage our experience during Superstorm Sandy to help Villalba, kind of navigate how to engage the Department of Energy at the federal level to advance more resilience and sustainability within Villalba, but also within that region within Puerto Rico. So these level relationships and these connections across countries and communities, in our experience, has really been critical.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Bala. Great. We're going to move now to the middle of the country and welcome Mayor Kautz, mayor of Burnsville, Minnesota. The mayor was the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors for a number of years, and I understand that international collaboration was one of your priorities. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you, Angie. And I'll tell a little bit of the story around all of that, because it was very important for mayors of the country to make sure that we take care of our planet. So in 2005, when President Bush did not sign the Kyoto Protocol, the U.S. Mayors Conference signed a climate agreement. And I was one of those first people who signed that climate agreement in 2005. And so when I became president in 2009, and it was also at the same time when President Obama came into office. And President Obama at the time also recognized that there are some things that we needed to do. And he put in place the American Recovery Reinvestment Act. You all remember ARA? And it was a wonderful opportunity for all of us, because prior to that, the U.S. Conference of Mayors worked collaboratively and on a bipartisan way with Senator Clinton and Senator Norm Coleman to put together the EECBG, the Energy Efficiency Block Grant, and we got that done. So it came into action and was promulgated under President Bush, but it was funded under Obama. So when you look at all of that, one of the things that we know at the U.S. Conference of Mayors is that mayors act and we get things done. And so we decided that we were going to take, because climate and protecting our planet was a priority for me. And it was a priority for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And so we were going to take it all around. We went to Europe, to the EU, and formed a relationship with then president of the region, Mercedes Bresso from Italy. And she was also the president of the climate action at the EU. And what we wanted to do was to form an alliance with mayors of the European Union countries. And so we started to do that, and they adopted our climate agreement from the US. And we did that. And then in 2010, they came to our meeting in Oklahoma to sign the MOU that we've been working on all along. And then I went back to Europe to sign it at the EU. And it was important for us to do that. But what came out of that is that the European Union countries now have a Mayors Alliance. And it was modeled after the US Conference of Mayors. And so we did a lot of work around Europe. And so we also took it to China. And at that time in China, there was a Mayors Alliance that Tom Cochrane was very, very close to and worked very hard to form and to nurture that relationship. But the problem with the mayors of China is that they're appointed and they can be in office today and out of office tomorrow. And the other is that all actions come from the national government. So when we sat down and worked with them, they didn't have the authority to take action back then. But since then, China has done a lot with climate action. So you see, it is about mayors working together, not only here locally, but internationally, because we can make a difference. And we have done that, and we continue to do that. And that's why you see the U.S. Conference of Mayors present at a lot of the COPs. We went to our first COP when I was president in Denmark. And there, we didn't have recognition because we didn't have the subnational help from the state government. But it was through the EU that we went through into COP. So these are the kinds of relationships that you have to nurture, you have to work with to get things done. And that's how we got into that. And then Paris and everything else. But if you don't do that and nurture those relationships and work on the climate actions that you all agree to, you'll not get to what you need to do. And that's why we are all in. Since 2005, the U.S. Conference of Mayors is all in on climate action and making a difference. And a lot of us mayors also know that it is transportation and buildings are the biggest drivers of carbon emission. Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. And so in my city, we focus on those areas to begin pulling down carbon emissions.
Great.
Yeah. But so we're all in, and I'm proud to be part of the U.S. Conference of Mayors because we have been carrying this torch for a long time.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Counts.
Thank you. ICLEI was part of that partner with us also at the beginning. And but it is international work, and you have an international arm all over. But I tell you, it is mayors that make a difference. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great story. I hadn't heard the story about you going to the EU and helping with that alliance. That's terrific. And yes, it was great to see the local climate action summit in the last couple of days. It's also wonderful to see this work that's been done for decades, as the mayor has pointed out, really getting its recognition here at COP. So thank you. And now we would love to welcome from La Crosse, Wisconsin, Mayor Mitch Reynolds, here with the Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative. Mayor Reynolds, we love the Mississippi River and we know how important it is in the United States. Tell us a little bit about your approach to international collaboration and what are you thinking about in terms of rivers as an important driver in that conversation?
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you. I appreciate being here today, and I'm sorry I was a little tardy. I don't know if I have to apologize for that anymore, since everybody has been late to everything at this point. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk about certainly what MRCTI does in relation to the Mississippi River and collaboration, because it's, I like to say, and I borrow this from Amelia Earhart, the most effective way to do it is to do it, and that's what mayors do. We do it. And we have along the Mississippi River, there's 105 mayors in 10 states that collaborate on policy initiatives and actual work on the Mississippi River to improve the river and the climate. And we're very proud of some of the things that we're announcing here at COP this year. And last year, we talked about the 66,000 acres of natural infrastructure projects that we were deploying along the Mississippi River. Natural infrastructure that will not only benefit cities along the Mississippi and make them more resilient, but also sequester carbon and trap methane. And this year, we're excited to add 40,000 acres to that total. So we'll be deploying 100,000 acres of natural infrastructure all the way up and down the Mississippi River, 45 cities, 9 states. This will not only, again, we're talking about resiliency for the cities up and down the Mississippi River, but we're also addressing the needs of addressing water quality on the Mississippi. There are 20 million people that get their drinking water directly from the Mississippi River. So we're addressing water quality, we're addressing wildlife habitat, and these are all natural infrastructure projects. These are exactly the types of things that we're looking for in relation to addressing global climate change. The most important part about these projects is that they will sequester 230,000 tons of carbon once complete. And not only that, but we're trapping significant amounts of methane as well. As we all know, methane is a huge driver of climate change. And so we're really dealing with that. The key to all of that, however, is collaboration. It's all the mayors working as one. It's all the mayors looking to do this together, along with our partners at Ducks Unlimited, for example. And we are also working with Munich Reinsurance on an innovative parametric facility to ensure not only those natural infrastructure, not the natural infrastructure projects, but also our built assets as well, and coming up with innovative ways to pay for that. So it's fantastic. Again, the key to is collaboration. It's also a model then for other significant river basins around the world, because we're the only ones who do this in the Mississippi River corridor, and thus representing the entire basin, which is, arguably the most significant food basin in the world. But we can help model this for the rest of the world so that these other collaborative approaches can occur, not only in the Mississippi of the United States, but also on the Amazon, the Nile, and the Ganges, and the Yangtze. I mean, these are things that we can model elsewhere, and it requires, again, the mayors and at the working at the subnational level, working in collaboration and cooperation to achieve these things. And we're excited to be a part of this so that we can help the rest of the globe see how well this works and how well we can be effective at the subnational level. So, I mean, that's, we're engaged in this actual work. We're engaged in actually deploying these infrastructure projects along the Mississippi River. So we're gone well beyond the point where we're wringing our hands over global climate change. We're to the point where we're taking action and we're making effective change up and down the Mississippi River, not only, again, for our member cities and for their health and for their resilience, but for the health of the globe as well. So proud to be here representing MRCTI and talking about these great changes.
Great, thank you. What a great lead by example sort of project. And of course, not everyone has a whole river basin that they're focused on. Some mayors have a city government that they're focused on. And so I'd like to ask Mayor McLean from Boise, Idaho. Could you talk a little bit about your lead by example program, the work that you're doing to improve city operations? I understand you have a very aggressive carbon neutrality goal by 2035 for your operations. talk a bit about how you hope to inspire others around your city operations.
Sure. Hello. It's working now. Oh, great. Thank you. Appreciate it. First, I want to say appreciate the question, to ICLEI for the support you provided both here, but in the last 4 years as a new mayor, to Bloomberg Philanthropies and C40 for making it possible for me and my director of public works to be here with other mayors, and then Climate Mayors and U.S. Conference of Mayors as well for all that you do. I really appreciate the question because but I want to first address, as I was getting nervous that I was going to get the question, what do you think about international work? I thought, okay, I'm a new mayor. I've been a mayor for 4 years, was just reelected. I focused at home because for 2 years we had to handle COVID. But at the same time, it was important not to lead and create an example for others, but to act to protect the health and well-being and ultimately the resilience of my community. So we passed a climate action plan, created a climate action division that brings everybody together that intersects in some way with climate. And I really believe that that's every department, and developed programs. We passed a climate action plan that says our city government will be carbon neutral by 2030, powered by 100% electricity by 2020. We're going to beat that by about 5 years. And then we will be carbon neutral citywide by 2050, like so many other cities. And then be powered by 100% electricity by 2035 citywide, and we'll beat that as well. And in the midst of doing that and COVID, we have done a lot of work to make sure that with the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure law, with passage of CHIPS, we've landed a $15 billion investment by Micron to return memory fab back to Boise, back to the United States. They're building it now. They chose Boise because we have a housing plan. We update our modern zoning code. One of the largest impacts you can have on climate, both locally and globally, is to look at how you build and provide affordable housing. They chose us because we have a climate action plan we're delivering. We passed with 81% of the vote a clean water and climate action bond, and are pioneering clean water technology to be able to reuse it for clean fabs and other tech to help businesses meet their own carbon goals that their shareholders have, while creating prosperity and opportunity for our residents. And they picked us because we're demonstrating that we can actually do it quickly. And so really look forward in the next 4 years to meet those goals that I set in advance to be able to deliver for Boise. I want to talk a little bit about how we're doing the clean electricity piece, because it works for us. It can work in other cities in our state, and it can work for others as well. A part of that is like we pushed on the goals, and I decided I'd rather set a goal and try to make it than to set a goal I knew I could make and not make it faster. And so we set reach goals, and I was prepared to say we didn't make it, but we got closer than we would have if we hadn't tried. But we're going to beat it. And that's because of partnership. We've convinced in partnership with our power company to help us meet the mix that their shareholders expect them to have. And by us having an earlier goal than they have, we're going to help them deliver the goal that they set. And what that means is that starting in next September, our airport and our water renewal facilities will be fully powered by clean electricity, because working with Micron and Meta and the power company, we asked and got permission from our state to develop a new green tariff program where they will build power for us, we can purchase it, and we've set prices for years into the future, save our residents money, protect their health, meet our clean energy goals early. We would have made them by this year if I hadn't shared some of that power that's being developed with Micron and Meta. It was really hard to say yes, but we really wanted them to come to Boise, so we said yes. And then because we have a power company that is a partner, we are electrifying our city. So if you think back to like the 1920s in the Northwest, we have big river systems too, the Salmon, the Columbia. Everybody was like, electrify, electrify. And they had these magazines of like, get your electric stove and your electric refrigerator. They're so cool. Well, my point to the power company and to our residents is we got to look back to look to the future. So we are electrifying our buildings. Last year, what we do, Steve? We electrified 3 buildings. We are building no buildings on natural gas anymore because I asked the company to let us be a lab city and pioneer clean heat with them. They weren't ready. So we said, okay, we'll be electric and we'll tap into our geothermal system. So no buildings in our city will be built that aren't all electric. We have an all-electric police station. We're building 2 all-electric fire stations, and we're doing beneficial electrification with the buildings that exist. So 3 last year, 3 next year, and we're seeing the glide paths for energy usage and beating our goals even in carbon reduction because of that. we're electrifying our fleet like so many cities are. We're waiting too long for those little cars to drive people around. But we also have one of the largest garbage truck fleets that's electric in the country. And we did that in partnership with Republic. Of the 3,500 cities, they picked us first because we said we want to be your lab and let's figure out if it works. And if it doesn't, we have backup, but let's see if it works and then what we need to fix to bring it to scale. And so in all of these things, whether it be doubling our tree canopy as part of our America the Beautiful pledge, or increasing civic engagement around climate action, or just the basics of electrification to take advantage of clean energy and to be prepared for the disruptions that will occur and are occurring as we sit here. It's with the health and long-term resilience of our residents in mind, and ultimately means we'll save money, we'll have new jobs of the future, and our city and ideally our state and our region will be a winner. And while we're all doing this together, the mayors are I'd say they're like somebody said yesterday, we're the doers. I actually think we have to be the dreamers and the doers, and then you build the team that helps you do the dream. And we're seeing that happen in Boise, and I know that we're seeing it happen in other places, and it will have long-term impact for our residents and others.
Congratulations. That's quite an extensive list of accomplishments in 4 years. So well done. And it reminds me a bit of the Race to Zero work that ICLEI's been doing over the last few years, helping US cities to set a science-based target. A science-based target being where do they need to be by 2030 in terms of their greenhouse gas reductions in order to hit zero by 2050. We did an analysis that said the fair share for US city would be about 63% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 or 2030 rather. And in order to do that, most communities need to get to about 80% renewable energy in order to electrify and use efficiency and so forth to hit that target. So you're well on your way. Congratulations. That's fantastic. So I'd like to come back to Mayor Bala because, you know, as you were talking, Mayor Bala, about the work that you did with the community in Puerto Rico, my mind went to why? I mean, how do you have time, right? And why was it important to you to do that?
I think it's important because if we live in silos and we accomplish things, they're beneficial for our community. We're one square mile, the city of Hoboken, and it's beneficial to Hoboken and the region. But if it's innovative, if it's something different, if it's outside the cycle of destruction and rebuilding and destruction and rebuilding that we see in places like Florida, the Caribbean. And, you know, we can innovate and dream big and find a better way. You know, why not work together with other communities facing the same challenges as us and try to expand opportunity and improvements on a more broader scale. So, you know, we do that in a reciprocal way. During Superstorm Sandy, which was absolutely devastating to us, we went to the Dutch because the Dutch had a lot more experience in trying to find innovative solutions to coastal flooding, storm surge, and chronic flooding. And they were great partners with us in developing an innovative design to combat both coastal surge as well as chronic flooding in a way that breaks that cycle and creates a comprehensive and really resilient city that can withstand the impacts of climate change for years. So these partnerships between communities, they might not all be identical, but we can all learn something from each other. And these conversations are critical if we're going to advance as a world and move forward together.
Mm-hmm. Great. So both opportunities to lead and to learn across your peer group. That's fantastic. Commissioner Shea, I want to come back to you because I know that climate migration is something that you have been thinking about. And when you mentioned the mayor from Bogota and your conversation there, yeah, what do you think we need to be doing in terms of a dialogue around migration in an international context as it pertains to impacts from climate really exacerbating that?
Well, I think climate migration is an issue that's going to affect virtually all of our cities, either because people will have to leave. We know that much of at least the southern United States will be profoundly impacted by extreme heat, making life virtually unlivable, and then loss of water. And I say, and then other bad things too. Those two are pretty bad. And one of the things that I've talked about in our community is initially we're in Central Texas, and a lot of people there think, oh, sea level rise, storm surge won't affect us in any way. But the reality is the 7.3 million people who live along the Texas Gulf Coast will have to move inland. And Texas, Austin is a big city that's very attractive to a lot of people. There's a lot of jobs there. And so it will be natural for some of those 7.3 million people to move to Austin. And no one is calculating that into their projections for growth. And the other problem with Texas is the state makes it very difficult for cities to plan for growth, particularly with regard to water supply. And the region is running out. The Colorado River, the lower Colorado, which provides the bulk of our water supply, has seen really epic reductions in inflows. And the state and regional bodies have their hands tied. The state does not allow, at least currently, for active, open evaluation of climate impacts. The political situation is such that scientists literally can't talk about it, can't include it in their research or their studies. And so we're in a bad situation because it's going to be very difficult to plan for these kinds of impacts. So over time, I think we will see loss of population as people will have to move further north because of extreme heat and drought. So we'll lose population. And then other cities in the north will gain a lot of population. And I've had those conversations with some of the northern cities as well to say, how are you planning for the increase in population that will eventually happen because people will have to move to cooler climates where there's more water supply? I'll just point out one example. Duluth, Minnesota is promoting itself as 98% climate proof, and they're encouraging people to move there. I don't know how they're preparing their infrastructure for it, but they're promoting themselves as climate proof. So migration will be a huge issue. And what I find distressing is how hateful, frankly, the conversation has been around it. And I think it can be incredibly politically destabilizing. And so I think we have a real challenge to talk about it in more humane terms. And one of the things I've said as an example is a lot of us in the southern United States will have to move north because of extreme heat and drought. And some may want to move to Canada. And what if Canada had the same policies toward us that we have toward people on our southern border? Do we think that's a good idea? And it's just to try and give people a different lens to look at the situation, maybe even imagine that they might be in that situation. So I think we have a huge challenge to just try and talk about it in more humane terms, but also prepare people for the very real likelihood in our lifetimes that some of us will become climate refugees or migrants. And certainly some of our residents will be.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I'm sure many of you heard the new ambassador for subnational diplomacy, Nina Hachigian, speak here at our opening and other events across the last couple of days. So this is a new program for the State Department, a new position at the State Department. And so I'd like to ask our three panelists who haven't gone twice here, starting with Mayor Couts. What do you think the role of subnational diplomacy at the U.S. State Department might look like? And it seems like you're a good person to answer this, having done the work that you described in the EU. So tell us what you think. If you were to advise the ambassador, what sort of things might you ask of her?
We had this conversation yesterday with the ambassador. So one of the things is looking at how we can help each other. One of the things is that, we also, I think Mayor McLean, you said that we have to be dreamers. So mayors always have to look ahead. And so for her, one of the things that we're looking at is that what's next year going to look like and at subsequent times? And how do we hold on to this new division within the State Department that recognizes who all of us are and that we're on a subnational level? So the thing is, it's what we can do to help her in terms of making sure that there is funding for her department to continue on. And what she can do for us is that continue to pull us all together, to work together for the good of the actions that we're taking with regard to climate. But it's so important that we look at what's going to happen next year and the following year if the administration changes, because then what happens?
Yeah. Right.
We're all in a vulnerable place right now. So that's where everything is at. But at the same time, I would say, and in our conversation with her, is that we will continue to act. It doesn't matter whether there is or isn't a division within the State Department. Mayors will continue to act, continue to be dreamers of what is the possibility and the opportunities for us to all come together and make sure that we save this planet for our children and our children's children and for all of us, and so that we have a sustainable place for people to continue to thrive.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Mayor Reynolds, thoughts on city-to-city diplomacy in an international context?
Sure. Well, I do want to, it is interesting that we're all here in this. It's a very unique situation. It's my first COP, but it is my understanding it's a very unique situation for all of us to be engaged in this kind of way. And among the people to thank for that is Ambassador Hachigian. I mean, she's done extraordinary work to make this happen, and we've done the same thing. We've asked, from MRCTI, we've asked her, what can we do for you? How can we, and not just her, but the position, how can we make sure this is a lasting position? Because, yeah, absolutely, I agree with Mayor Cowles. We're going to continue to do the work together, collaboratively with our organization and at home in our own cities as well. There's no question about that. And we're going to continue, in my city, we'll continue working on implementing the 281 strategies in our climate action plan. I mean, that work's going to continue, no question. And we're going to continue reaching out to the government of India, so we could sign a river compact as we're doing here at COP. But what we need to be able to amplify what we're doing in this kind of venue so that people can hear what we're doing internationally, so that they can take that back home and implement those changes at home as well. And this is, I don't know if it happens without this gathering here of local representatives being at COP. I mean, this has been fantastic. And I think that, we need to, if, again, administrations change, Congress changes, but we need to do our work to ensure that we are advocating for the continuation of that role within the State Department, because it is clearly essential in getting our voice out there so that we can, and learning from others around the globe as well, so that the actions they're doing in Bogota and in Argentina, so that their actions are being amplified here in my city in the United States as well. So I think it's absolutely essential to continue this work.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to put in a shameless plug for the ICLEI World Congress, which will come up in June, the week of June 19th, 2024, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Be there. Another opportunity to do some international exchange. We'd love to have you all join us. And so last but not least, let's hear from Mayor McLean. Yeah.
The office and the ambassador, the work that they're doing. I actually just met her probably 6 weeks ago. We had a Zoom. I really do like the opportunity that we have both to talk with through ICLEI and others with mayors from around the world, with folks in DC, what have you, because of Zoom while you can stay home. So done some of that, but it was so interesting because she reached out, she wanted to tell me about the work that the office does. And I said, oh, this is really interesting. And then, I said, but, first term, not traveling. And then she said, well, you should think about COP. This is my first COP too. And I said, oh, that's really expensive. I can't do that. And she's like, well, there might be some opportunities for you. And so I mean, a big part of what this office can do is help cities understand how they can better engage. And she delivered on that so quickly. I wasn't even realizing that she was offering to do that with she and her team. And we talked this week about what more the office can do, the need to have it funded so it lasts beyond an administration, so that regardless of national politics, that our communities still have support and connection to better understand how to connect and learn from others, whether it be around the country or around the world. And I'd also say we should take some of what that office does and take advantage of the connection that office has on a kind of local and national basis as well, because the office is connected with cities around our country and around the world, and can help us connect with cities that are in similar situations or have interesting things going on, because they have such a sense of what's happening. And I expect that will only grow as the office gets a little bit more time under its belt.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Well, in the world where things work out exactly as they're supposed to, we're in one of those moments right now. I'd like to ask Rafi Balan from the U.S. State Department to join us. We didn't think he was going to be able to make it today, so welcome, Rafi. Rafi has been a long time member of the Foreign Service at the U.S. State Department, was instrumental in helping to get the Cities Forward program set up, which is how we led off our session today. So we'd love to hear what you're up to now, what you're doing at COP. Give us some insights.
Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Rafi.
Thank you, Angie. So miracles do happen. Somehow I made it from the other side of Dubai to here in under 30 minutes. Yes, it's so people, I know, I don't know how it happened, but it does happen. So my name is Rafi Balan. I work in the office of the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, John Kerry. I focus on climate finance and subnational engagements. And I've had the pleasure of meeting a number of the mayors here and other local officials, and it's an absolute honor to be here. From our perspective at both the State Department and from the Special Envoy for Presidential Envoy for Climate, I would like to just stress the importance of local action to achieve and address global challenges. One of our former speakers of the House of Representatives for many years used to say that all politics is local. And there is no better case of that and understanding that in terms of the impact that local action has on solving global solution and providing global solutions for challenges we're facing as a planet and as humanity. And the cities that are here today from the US that are at this conference are a demonstration of the actions that are taking place across the United States, local actions, and these leaders are responding to their citizens' demands to really build resiliency, to build mitigation and adaptation to the very real challenges that people are facing all over the world every day in terms of the climate-impacted disasters, the droughts, the wildfires, the flooding. And I hope you've heard from them, because I know about the good work they're doing, but I hope you heard from them, I'm sure you did, about the great work they're doing in terms of leading their citizens into a better future. So I just wanted to say that from our standpoint in the US, we have, I don't know if it's unique, but it is definitely particular in terms of how we approach our engagement at the federal level and at the state and local level. The federal level provides really the guidance in terms of regulations, but cities and states really lead their own mission in terms of looking at the possibilities, and the federal government provides the assistance and the funding through the IRA, the bipartisan infrastructure law, to incentivize action. And these leaders here today are really guiding that conversation throughout the United States. So it's really an honor to be here and to reinforce and endorse this mission, and to say thank you to each and every one of you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Let's give all of our speakers a round of applause. Thank you so much to Commissioner Shea, to Mayor Bala, to Mayor Couts, to Mayor Reynolds, to Mayor McLean, and of course to Rafi. So we're going to do a family photo with all of the mayors who are in the audience as well. But before we do that, I just wanted to mention that throughout the year, you may know that we've been doing global stock takes locally around the world. And tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., please come here. You can hear the results of those global stock takes and how the citizens have brought forward the issues that are important to them, how they want to play a role. Where are we? Where do we want to go? How are we going to get there in terms of getting to our Paris goals? So please come. And thank you so much for being here this morning. Let's have the mayors come up and we'll do a family photo. Oh, and